Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to talk about the 1978 sci-fi horror film Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This is the DVD I have. It doesn't have that classic poster of this movie with that. Yeah, I can't describe it, but it's an iconic poster for this movie. I wish it was on the DVD, but anyway, so this was a remake of the 1956 classic directed by Don Siegel, based on the Jack Finney novel. This version was directed by Philip Kaufman. The script was written by W.D. Richter, and it starred Donald Sutherland and Jeff Goldblum and Brooke Adams and Veronica Cartwright. Leonard Nimoy appears in a memorable role as well, and many others. Don Siegel, who directed the original, appears in this movie as a taxi driver, and Kevin McCarthy, who was a star of the original, also kind of reprises his role from the original film. So, in an interesting cameo he makes. So, anyway, I'll just say at the front, I think that I've always thought this was a brilliant movie. Maybe one of the all-time great remakes ever made, and just because. And I think with this series of movies, there would be another remake in the 90s and one in the 2000s, is the whole Body Snatcher concept and taking the culture of its moment and building a story around that. Whereas the 50s version was about, I talked about this, whether it's the Cold War climate of McCarthyism and fear of communism and all the paranoia associated with all the Cold War anxieties of the 1950s, whereas this movie is really about the anxieties of the late 70s. I mean, you can talk about malaise is a popular word used from the Jimmy Carter speech. We're in this, coming out of a difficult period economically and with culturally and all these things with Vietnam and Watergate. So, and this is definitely a post-Watergate movie with its skepticism about the government, okay? Whereas in the original, the government is kind of your friend who's going to help out. And here, that's not the case at all in some ways. So, but I'll talk more about some of the themes in the movie too. But just to get a little bit into the story, so it's set in San Francisco. I think few movies have used a city better as a character in a movie. That's one of my favorite things about movies, where the setting itself really becomes a character, and just all the on locations throughout San Francisco used really are just used so effectively throughout this movie. You have Donald Sutherland, who is a civil servant, who, when we first meet him, he's doing a restaurant inspection and finds out this restaurant has some sanitation issues, and we have Brooke Adams, who's also a scientist who works alongside Donald Sutherland, and we meet Brooke Adams first, and even the way this movie opens up with the opening credits are great. With the music score is really interesting by Danny Zeitlin. I'm not sure how you pronounce the last name. Who only did one film score, and it was for this movie. But just kind of this almost creepy lounge, jazzy score to the film that we get throughout, but it also has some orchestral flourishes. And as we follow in the opening credits, we're following these microscopic species who are heading towards Earth to take over. And then we land in San Francisco, and we almost get the sense like it's already starting. Like there's a shot of the first woman we see, who's like, she's a teacher, I think, with kids, and she's kind of staring into the camera suspiciously, and she tells the kids to go pick those flowers. There's all these odd flowers appearing throughout the city, which are the pods, of course. Brooke Adams is there. She is taking samples of the plants. And then we look over, and there's a cameo by Robert Duvall, dressed as a priest, swinging and just kind of with a very haunted look on his face. So, and we get that throughout this movie. A lot of just uncanny images. There's always, especially in the crowd scenes, there's always like offbeat behavior happening in the background with the characters and the extras in this movie, which just kind of builds to that the paranoid atmosphere of this movie. So anyway, we're with Brooke Adams and her her husband or boyfriend, I think, is there, and he's kind of a real outgoing guy. And then the next morning, he's completely different. Okay, that he is. It's as if his personality has been stripped from him, and that's kind of where the conspiracy begins, where Brooke Adams gets suspicious of her boyfriend and starts to follow him around and realize he's meeting with strange people and odd people at odd places and all these things. So there is that idea in the film, and yeah. So, and meanwhile, Donald Sutherland, he's going around the city. He's getting stories of people talking about loved ones who aren't acting like themselves, and he starts to notice a lot of strange behavior as well around the city. So there's something feels a bit off, and the film, I really like how this film just subtly builds all that up, where it's never like in your face for the most part. It's very subtle the way it handles all this. Then we meet the Belichicks, Jeff Goldblum, who is this kind of disaffected writer who is a friend of Donald Sutherland, and Veronica Cartwright as Nancy Belichick, and she's a great character too. Like, she's kind of into new age pseudoscience type stuff, and actually she's the one who quickly begins to put two and two together about what's happening, that this is some sort of invasion from space that's happening. So I like that part of the story. And then there's Leonard Nimoy in one of his great roles as a pop psychologist who is very famous. He's an author, and he's sort of all about how to keep families together. Like, there is this he's really concerned about the breakdown of families and rising divorce rates and why relationships aren't working these days. So he's really like, it's such a brilliant character and really interesting character, and a satire. And we've seen so many people like that come from since, who write books and talk about all these pop psychology things. So Leonard Nimoy is really good in the film, and of course ultimately ends up becoming kind of a antagonist in the story, which was really good. But as in the original film, all the characters start to discover about there's pods and there's duplicates and all these things, and the movie does get a bit gory at times when it gets more into how the transition happens within the pods, and there's one memorable scene where that happens. And as we feel with these characters, as they become more and more besieged and they realize some force is taking over the city, it's taking over the government and the police, and they're real by 2/3 to this movie. They're really feeling the pinch of what's happening with this invasion. And like a 70s movie too, the story keeps getting darker and darker as it moves along, as we see all these things. So I like as I talked about, I love all the commentary on pop psychology in the movie. There's a skepticism about conspiracies and governments, and or hidden power structures that are behind something like this, almost like what we will get later with the X-Files, where that paranoid mindset becomes such a part of pop culture would be. And this film really does a great job of that too, as far as how it develops the story. and all these things. So there's just and there's just so many great details throughout the film of recurring imagery throughout the film. Like there's so many plants are a recurring image in the film, and how plant life and the connections with the invaders, and in the 70s, that was so common, where house plants were so common. And if you look at TV shows and movies, you'll see plants everywhere, and I like how the movie does that. And the cinematography is really good as well. A lot of Dutch angles, of crooked angles, where kind of distorting our sense of reality and things like that. Michael Chapman did the cinematography, who I believe also shot Taxi Driver too. So it's has that urban grittiness to it that Scorsese's films had too, which was really good. And effective use of close-ups and lighting, like we kind of get that film noir lighting a lot, only it's in the city and it's often raining, and you get the feeling everything is kind of wet and cloudy all the time, kind of adding to the gloom of the story, which is great. There's like imagery of the plants. There's a lot of garbage trucks, and just yeah. So it's, I always catch new details every time I watch the movie. I catch on to something new that happens in the story. So yeah. Anyway, I think those are my thoughts on Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Just a fantastic remake, a fantastic late 70s movie, which I would highly recommend. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.